Have you heard of Mood.com? They sell federally legal cannabis gummies. Everything you'd expect from a dispensary, and ship it right to your door. 0 pants required. I'm serious. You can now get high-quality, 100% federally legal cannabis products delivered right to your door without ever leaving your couch. And you can get $30 off your first order at mood.com/RLRC with promo code RLRC. Mood partners with small American farms to bring you amazing high-potency THC gummies, home-baked cookies, top-shelf flour, vapes, and more. And third-party lab-tested, backed by a 100-day guarantee. No dispensary lines, just clean, quality, 100% federally legal THC from the farms to your couch. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get $30 off their first order with code RLRC. So head to mood.com/RLRC, check out their online dispensary, and let Mood help you discover your perfect mood. And don't forget to use promo code RLRC when you check out to save $30 on your first order. Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? I know Sydney was, and if you're a woman, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our environment right now, found in our food, water, and even in our skincare products. These disruptors can wreak havoc on our hormones. Believe me, before Hormone Harmony, I watched Cindy suffer. Not anymore. Hormone Harmony's formula, made only with herbal ingredients, have reduced Cindy's hormonal symptoms, and it helps women of all ages. Then there are the natural hormonal changes our bodies face, such as menopause. While these processes are part of life, they don't have to be uncomfortable. The good news is that you don't have to suffer through it any longer. Hormone Harmony contains science-backed herbal extracts known as adaptogens, designed to help the body cope with stressors, including those chaotic hormonal fluctuations that can disrupt your daily life. Whether it's PMS symptoms like irritability and cravings, or menopause symptoms such as hot flashes and night sweats, Hormone Harmony can help with it all. Happy Mammoth, the creator of Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to improving women's lives by using only high-quality, science-backed ingredients. They make no compromises on quality, ensuring that you receive the best support possible. This isn't just a supplement. It has become a phenomenon. Women are talking about it everywhere, with a bottle of Hormone Harmony sold every 24 seconds. And the most important benefit, women express feeling like themselves again. A sentiment echoed in over 30,000 positive reviews. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com. Don't forget to use the code RLRC for 15% off today.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning. This episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims.
My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And today, once again, we're continuing Scorched, the state versus Scott Peterson. Wow. Y'all love this case, right? That's the longest thing I've ever done. But the numbers consistently grow on it every week. And you know what? It's a lot of shit, y'all. It's a lot of stuff. And the trial transcripts that I'm reading and stuff, that at this point, we are in the death penalty phase, and the defense is putting on all these witnesses. And as you've heard in the past episodes, it's pointless to me. I don't understand what they're doing. There's no psychiatric reason they're bringing up, no sexual abuse reason, no drug use reason or anything else. They're just talking, everything from Scott's daddy's childhood to the last one was an employee that worked at the Creighton company and talking about Scott's family. What the fuck? I'm on that jury, and now I know why. In Louisiana, my murder trials, I don't think I've ever had one last over 2 weeks. And out in California, they last for 3 and 4 months. And now you know why, right? If I'm on the jury and I'm sitting there going to decide death or not, I'd be mad as fuck listening to all this, to the point where the next witness that I was going to read to you was the son of the witness of the last guy that I read to you, who also worked at the Creighton company. And it's short, and I'm just skipping it. It's the same shit. Oh, I worked at the Creighton company. I never saw anything wrong. I worked there for X amount of years, and the family was nice enough to give me some time off during college. Okay. Still Scorched. So it means fucking nothing. To me, that would show such desperation on the defense's part to put anybody up there or to try to bore me to tears that I would have the red ass. But today we're going to be continuing, and it's Garagos, the defense attorney, is going to be interviewing Susan Caudillo, Caudillo, who is a witness for Scott, and it is the penalty phase, and this is December 1st, 2004. Now, can you imagine you've been sitting on the jury that long, and it's December, and you're thinking, geez Louise, I hope they should shut the fuck up. I got to do my Christmas shopping. But here we go. So I'll say Garagos, and then I'll say Caudillo. All right. So Garagos. I'm going to say Susan, y'all. It'll make it a lot easier than me saying Caudillo a million times. So Garagos. Good afternoon, Susan. Susan. Hello. Garagos. You're the Susan who is under Lee on the chart? Susan. Yes. Garagos. Is Scott your brother? Susan. Yes. Garagos. And Lee is your dad? Susan. My baby brother. Garagos. Okay. You've been here for much of the trial. Is that correct? Susan. I have been. Yes, I have. Garagos. Okay, and I want to take you back. I guess, obviously, you've known Scott all his life. Susan. Uh-huh. The day he was born. Garagos. Okay, who were you living with when Jackie was pregnant? Susan. We lived with our mom, my brother Mark, my brother Joe, during the middle of the week, and we'd spend most every weekend at my dad's. Garagos. Okay, did your dad, lots of times we've heard, you've been sitting here for some of the testimony, you've heard about some of the divorced family. Is this typical divorce situation, or is the interaction okay? Susan. Interaction with my dad was very, very good. the divorce was in my mind. I mean, every divorce is never easy, but it's just was what it was. My dad didn't live with us, but we saw my dad a lot, and he never left our lives. We always knew that he was there for us and loved us very much. Gary goes, when he married Jackie, did you would spend weekends with the two of them? Susan, yes. Gary goes, so I assume that you saw or were there at 11 or 12 when she got pregnant with Scott? Susan, yes. Gary goes, were you there when Scott was born? Susan, yeah. When my earliest memories of Scott coming along was the day Jackie told us that she was pregnant, and I was very excited about it, and we just watched her pregnancy progress. She was very active, and it was really fun to watch the baby grow, and so we were all a part of her pregnancy during those 9 months, and just were really anticipating the arrival of the new baby. We didn't know what sex the baby was going to be, but they were all hoping for a girl. Here it goes. Were you? Susan, no. Gary goes, why? Susan, because I was the only girl. I really wanted to stay that way. I had brothers, and I had my place at the top of the rank there, and I was the only girl. Gary goes, did you put, what effect did Scott's birth have on Lee and Jackie? And was your mom remarried at that point? Susan, no. Gary goes, okay, then your mom and your two brothers, and who were you living with? Susan, yes. Gary goes, so what effect does Scott's birth have on the family? Susan, we were just really excited about having a new brother, and when he came into the world, we just loved him instantly. He was our brother. He just brought our family together. He was really kind of connected to everybody. He kind of completed our blended family. He made us all whole, I think. Gary goes, did you spend a lot of time with him during his early years? Susan, as much time as I could. I was 12 when he was born. So when we would be at my dad's house on the weekends, I would ask if I could share his room with him. He had a crib in one bedroom, and usually John's bed was there. And I would ask Jackie, and I said, you can sleep in tomorrow morning. I'll take care of Scott when he wakes up. And he was just an infant. And I'd wait for him to wake up in the morning and would get him out of bed and get his bottle prepared and do all those kind of, play mom, playhouse kind of thing. I would change his diaper. If I felt he needed a bath in the morning, I would love to give him a bath. So I would go right ahead and do it. Just did whatever I could. Gary goes, what kind of child was he as he grew up? I guess up to the age of 5. How would you describe him? Susan, he was a very easygoing kid. He had a great disposition, would let anybody hold him, loved to be held, always had a smile on his face. I don't ever remember him really being whiny or cranky in any sense. Just a very good disposition. Gary goes, okay, did that ever change as he grew older? Susan, not at all. Really, he's been very consistent with his evenness and his contentment and happiness. Gary goes, you have heard from the few witnesses that we have had today about the relationship that he had with your dad? Susan, uh-huh. Gary goes, how would you characterize that relationship? Susan, very tight, very close. Scott was a good kid. My dad could trust when he would take him, say on a delivery or something, that Scott would behave. And he just always liked to have a companion around. My dad is just that way, but I always liked to have somebody with him. When Scott was available after school and things like that, they always spent a lot of time together. Gary goes, what kind of effect does Scott coming or being born have on your dad? What kind of things about Scott affected your dad? Susan, he generally, could just tell that he loved him so much and that he was happy to have a child with Jackie. And this really bonded them, cemented their relationship. They were very much in love. And Scott was a child from that love. And all of us kids were recipients of that love. Gary goes, was there sometimes you hear about resentments amongst siblings in situations like that? Did you have that in your house? Susan, I never, ever, ever resented Scott. I was happy that he was our baby brother. And he may have lived in a nicer house or bigger house than we did, and maybe went on more vacations than we did. But we were all loved equally, and that's what was really important. Gary goes, I'm going to show you picture D9G-1. Recognize that? And D9G-2. Susan, yes. Gary goes, are these the pictures of you and Scott? There are pictures of you and Scott? Judge, you didn't mark those on the record. Gary goes, I thought I did. Judge, you didn't give them. This is D9G. You got 8 photographs? Gary goes, I have got 8 photographs. Judge, 1 through 8, series of photos, marked as exhibit D9G1-8 for identification. Gary goes, this is you and Scott? Susan, yes. Gary goes, approximately how old? Susan, Scott looks to be about 2 and I would be about 14. Gary goes, and D9G-2? Susan, I would say he's about 5 and that would make me about 17. Gary goes, got another one. D9G-3. This is pretty much the same. That's Scott and you and your dad and the boys. Susan, yes. Gary goes, and grandfather? Susan, behind Scott is Grandpa Peterson. And this picture was taken, Scott appears to be about 7 years old, I think. I think we were having some family photos taken by a friend at that time. Gary goes, then I got D9G-4. This is the whole family there together? Susan, yes. That's how we were every weekend. Kind of just my 4 brothers and Jackie and my dad, Grandpa. Gary goes, did the family do things together as well in connection with, I guess at some point, Lee had testified he was working at a trucking company. Is that correct? Susan, uh-huh. Gary goes, did you ever do anything together with Scott and the other boys? Susan, yeah. Specifically at the trucking company, my dad took on the extra job on the weekends of having all the trucks washed. He got a little extra paycheck for that. And we would be, meaning my brothers and myself,
we would help him. And it was so every other weekend type of thing on Saturday and Sunday. And we were washing big shipping trucks, and we would get in the garage size buckets full of water brooms, and we would go out there, and my brothers and I would put in a couple hours of worth of work. One would hose off, one would have to, scrub the truck, and the other one would rinse and do windows and dust, the inside of the dash. So we worked for maybe, I think he paid us each $1 or something, but that was if we contributed, we got paid. And I hear at the time, my dad and Jackie really needed the extra money. I thought we were doing it because it was fun, but Gary goes, apparently not, Susan. Apparently, they needed the extra money. Gary goes, as Scott grew up, I assume at one point you went away to school? Susan, I did. Gary goes, okay, did you keep in touch with them? Susan, yeah, we always have. Even when I was away, we would keep in touch. Primarily because he lived at home. And when I'd call home and, talk to my dad and talk to Jackie, and we'd be able to catch up on what Scott was up to. Gary goes, how would you describe him as he developed into a young man? Susan, when he graduated from high school and then he went away to college, and I remember, going back to visit him at San Luis Obispo, and now I'm married and I have 2 children. He really came out of, those teenage years. All of a sudden, he was a young man, a fine young man, an adult that was taking on his own college expenses and living on his own. And I really had expected that of him. That was just the kind of person he was. But in his adult years, he has made me proud of everything that he has accomplished. Gary goes, you tell me about a story last night, when I talked to you about a story when he had come back from a student against drunk drivers meeting. Do you remember telling me that story? Susan, yes. Gary goes, would you tell the jury that story? Susan, Scott was in high school, and I was married at the time, living in Escondido, kind of both North County communities. Our parents were in Morro Bay for a couple of days, and Scott was at home and at school, and he had attended this meeting for Students Against Drunk Drivers, was on his way home, and evidently the meeting he was in my hometown community in Escondido. It's a very windy, the road to get back to the Rancho Santa Fe, and he had an accident on his way home where his car had rolled and it went off the edge of the road, and he had to swerve to avoid hitting an animal. The accident was in the evening. It was late. Gary goes, how late? Susan, I would estimate probably around 10 o'clock. He was on his way home. He called me once he'd gotten help from the highway patrol, the tow truck, and all that taken care of. And the tow truck driver actually drove him back into Escondido, where he could meet me so I could pick him up. But he took care of everything that needed to be taken care of until he needed a ride home. Then I was the person that he called. Gary goes, do you want to take the break now? Judge, this convenient? Gary goes, yes, it's convenient. They had a recess, y'all. Look, what the fuck? What the fuck does it matter? I mean, he was a happy baby. She bathed him. Great. whatever. He's the finest young man in the world, evidently, right? He had an accident one night. He calls his sister. Okay. You murdered. You've been convicted by the same people that are listening to this shit of murdering your wife and unborn baby. I'm just getting more pissed off as I sit on the jury. Continuing. Here goes. Susan, as you had mentioned that you went up and visited Scott, is that San Luis Obispo or Morro Bay? When you said you kind of developed a new plan at that point, I guess. Susan, yeah, my parents were living in Morro Bay, and Scott was attending school at Cal Poly. So maybe twice a year, my husband and I bring our two daughters to visit Scott. He was always there. Gary goes, how old are your daughters? Susan, currently they're 14, my oldest, and my other daughter, that's 10. Gary goes, okay, and I assume you've been married for a while. Susan, 16 years to Ed. Gary goes, and Ed, did Scott go out of his way to welcome Ed into the family? Susan, he did. Scott was probably, I think, 15 when we got married. But as Scott got older, my husband was allowed to play golf with them on occasion. My husband's not a very good golfer, but they would team up, and my husband always tells me that Scott would put Eddie on his team because Scott was the better golfer and would encourage him always, maybe give him a tip or how to hit the ball better and not make him feel so, less of a golfer than the rest of them because they were all very, pretty good. So he made him feel comfortable. Gary goes, how about before he went to jail? How does Scott interact with you and your girls? Susan, well, Thanksgiving was always a great time because we anticipated Scott and Lacey coming to our Thanksgiving holiday, and they always looked forward to seeing their Uncle Scott and Aunt Lacey. And I know the very last Thanksgiving that we had with Lacey, the one particular memory I have is my daughter Rachel had written a poem about what she was thankful for, and she read it, and the rest of the kids were kind of laughing at her. And Scott, thought it was the coolest, nicest little poem.
This episode is sponsored by MIDI Health.
MIDI Health is here to change the way women experience menopause care. As a husband, I've seen my wife Cindy navigate the challenges of menopause, and it hasn't been easy. Keeping up with her symptoms while feeling dismissed by traditional healthcare providers was tough for her. It was disheartening to hear the doctors say it was all in her head or to just focus on diet and exercise. I learned that many healthcare providers lack training in menopause, which is shocking. 80% of OBGYNs report they are untrained in this critical area, and 75% feel uncomfortable discussing it with their patients. Thank goodness Cindy found MIDI. MIDI is a virtual care clinic dedicated to truly seeing, hearing, and understanding women's experiences. It was created by women for women, and they accept insurance in all 50 states. Getting started is simple. She visited www.trymidi.com/real, set up her account, and entered her insurance information and shared her symptoms. She was able to choose a convenient time to meet her clinician. During the virtual visit, she discussed her symptoms and health history in detail with a nurse practitioner trained in perimenopause, menopause, and weight management. If she needs any tests like blood work or imaging, they help coordinate it with a local facility that accepts her insurance. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Now she can follow her treatment plan and schedule follow-up visits. MIDI even collaborates with her other doctors for in-person treatment if necessary. Best of all, there are no hidden costs, no membership fees, and MIDI bills your insurance directly. MIDI also Offers fantastic products including compound semaglutide and estriol face cream, which Cindy loves. This prescription skincare product is designed to improve skin elasticity, hydration, and texture, addressing those frustrating changes related to estrogen decline. So if you're ready to take charge of your midlife health, go to www.trymidi.com/real. That's www.trymidi.com/real to schedule a virtual visit. Join more than 200,000 women who love and trust MIDI for their midlife care. Y'all use my code SAFE15 to get $15 off your first RX product when you book your visit.
Genetics can be beautiful. Maybe you got your mom's eyes or her great skin. But genetics can also be a nightmare. I hear friends say, I got my mom's belly and love handles. Don't let genetics be the thing that holds you back from getting the body you deserve. Check out the Permanent Solutions by Sono Bello. Our friends at Sono Bello are offering you their best deal. You're now included in their winter savings event, but appointments are limited, so please make your appointment today. Sono Bello doctors are masters in micro laser fat removal. What is micro fat laser removal? Micro laser fat removal is a brilliant technique that removes stubborn fat permanently. Tummy, love handles, thighs, arms, wherever your problem areas are, the fat is gone in one comfortable visit. Eating healthy and workouts are great. Keep doing that. But if you want to lose that stubborn fat in one visit, check out Sono Bello. Save big during their winter savings event. Schedule your free consultation now at sonobello.com/RLRC. That's SONOBELLO.com/RLRC. This she could ever write and read out loud. And he was very proud of her. He went out of his way to tell her how much he enjoyed listening to her poem and that he really appreciated it, even though her older cousins were kind of giggling in the background. But that made her feel really good that they went out of his way to make sure that she knew that. He actually wrote it to her in a letter because they do correspond. Gary guys. I got a picture here that I think you had handed me yesterday that I believe you said was Lee and Jackie's 25th anniversary. Susan. Yeah, all the kids decided we were going to throw a 25th wedding anniversary party for my dad and Jackie, and they were living in Morro Bay at the time. So the logical location was in that area. And Scott was, of course, the only sibling living there. And he and I really basically over the phone, but he had to do most of the legwork to put this party together for about 50 guests. It was a sit-down luncheon. And we had lunch. And it was such a wonderful afternoon. But I couldn't have done it really without Scott going through all the steps to help organize it. Y'all, I'm about to fucking throw up in the back of my mouth. I mean, really? Continuing. Gary guys, this is another one you gave me yesterday. Is that John and Allison's wedding? Susan. Yes. Gary guys. Allison is John's wife, obviously, and basically the extended family. Judge. What's the number on that one, Mr. Garagos? Garagos. I'm sorry, Judge. And they give the numbers. Susan. Yeah, it was John and Allison's wedding, and it was by the beach. So we all meandered out to the sand because we wanted a group photo. And so all the brothers and sisters were there. There's John and Allison, and then there's Scott and Lacey. And I don't believe they were married at the time. Then there's my husband in the back holding our oldest daughter. And I'm on the right holding our youngest daughter. And my niece Brittany is in the front. Now to the left of Allison. Gary goes, Allison. Susan, she's the bride. Yeah. We have most of Jacqueline's family. Her 3 brothers, I believe, are there. Patrick, Robert, and John, and their children, and their wives. It was also another great event. The family all getting together, getting to, reunite and spend some time catching up, and another opportunity for us to interact with Lacey. Y'all, and then he introduced some more pictures and asked if it's her daughters. Susan, yes. Gary goes, and that's Scott and Lacey's wedding? Susan, yeah. And all the nieces and nephews were asked to be in their wedding, and I thought that was a wonderful gesture. We know that they both love children, and Scott really wanted his nieces and nephews to be in the wedding, so they were all flower girls. Gary goes, okay, you gave me yesterday the pictures and identified this, and I think Thanksgiving 2001, is that right? Susan, I believe it was. This is at our parents' home, and this would be a typical Thanksgiving meal and a gathering. Everybody would bring something to the table. We all prepared a dish. Gary goes, was that the kind of tradition that you would do on Thanksgiving? Something that you would do every year? Susan, yeah. In younger days, we would try to alternate the Thanksgiving holiday between my mom's home and her side of the family, and my dad's home and his side of the family every other year. When Scott moved away, he would only come for Thanksgiving. I pretty much reserved that holiday so we could have that time together. And the one thing that I always tried to make sure we did was have Scott and Lacey over to our house. Gary goes, before Thanksgiving? Susan, the Wednesday before. That would be a time that we could connect, catch up on things, see how things are going. And Gary goes, this is 2001. Did they come by in 2002? Susan, yeah, 2002. That was that was very special for a lot of reasons. We had just purchased a new home that we moved into just the week before Thanksgiving. And so it was kind of a chaotic time, moving and such. But I really wanted to have Thanksgiving at our house, and you, Scott, and Lacey would be there. And I invited both sets of my parents, my mom and her husband, and of course, my dad, Jackie. It was the first time we ever had a Thanksgiving holiday or a Christmas holiday together. My parents would see each other at weddings and birthday parties for the grandkids and stuff like this. But this was a special time for Mark and Joe and I to have both sets of parents and to have them get along and have them be harmonious and everybody, enjoy each other. And Scott and Lacey were always a highlight there, and Scott and Allison and their children. We actually also invited my sister-in-law, Jennifer's parents, and grandparents. So we had a lot of extended family. So it made that holiday very special. Gary goes, that was the last time you saw Lacey and Scott before she went missing? Susan, yeah, it was. That was the last time we saw them. I had them over on Wednesday, and we talked a lot about, her pregnancy and the baby coming, and they were going to name the baby Connor. We found that out. She looked wonderful. She was so happy and, had a glow about her. And it was a great time for her. Gary goes, do you have any memory you told me last night that you do this as kind of potluck? Everybody brings something. What does Scott and Lacey bring? Susan, I asked them to bring some fruit, some cheese, and some crackers. And at the time they got done, they brought in about 4 or 5 grocery bags by the time they got done. And it was about this big. And it was filled to the top with exotic fruits and the best cheeses. And that was just the way they did things. Always went above and beyond what anybody's expectations were. And you know, Lacey, in a vision of how she would like, you know, things to be. And it was a nice and beautiful gesture on their part. Gary goes, what effect has Scott's arrest and being jailed have on your family? Susan, that's one of the worst days of my life. It was April the 18th. I just couldn't hear really the words when Jackie called me and told me he was arrested. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't think that it could ever happen. I broke down. We had to tell our kids that Uncle Scott was arrested, and they broke down. It was a horrible, horrible day. Gary goes, you've been up here as much as humanly possible, I guess, during the trial itself, and you've obviously visited Scott in the various jails he's been in, correct? Susan, yes, often. Gary goes, and has there been, while he's been in jail, has he still maintained contact with your kids and with your daughters? Susan, yes. He wrote almost immediately after he was at Modesto, I think to reassure them that he was okay and to kind of finish some things that he, you know, maybe had promised to do with them. You know, we all had plans for Easter Sunday that we never got to do. Gary goes, was that supposed to be at your house? Susan, mm-hmm. Gary goes, does he carry on correspondence with the girls since then? Susan, oh yeah, most definitely. I encourage them to write, and they write letters, and he writes them back, and they keep a good dialogue up. Gary goes, when you say you encourage them, is that something they feel like they're forced to do, or is it something they feel that they want to do? Susan, I don't force them. I remind them, you know, that if they have some downtime, that this would be a good time to write your Uncle Scott. And they go, oh, okay, I remember. Gary goes, did you find anything positive out that exchange of those letters of correspondence? Susan, yeah, my 14-year-old, especially, I didn't know this, but she was writing Uncle Scott and confiding in him about some interaction that she had and I had been having, I guess. Maybe a little bit of, Gary goes, mother-daughter? Susan, yeah, some disagreement we may have had on some punishment, maybe a restriction she'd been put on. And he would write her back and give her words of encouragement. That's just how parents are. Gary goes, did you find that he's been a positive thing, at least from your standpoint, for her? Susan, I do believe so, because she needs other adults in her life that she looks up to. And Uncle Scott is definitely someone that she looks up to and loves very much. Gary goes, I know that you had gone out to man the volunteer center the day after Christmas, at least for the first week, and then intermittently when it closed down, right? Susan. Yeah, I will on Christmas morning when I was aware that Lacey was missing. You know, my dad and Jackie headed straight to Modesto. My brother Joe had called me shortly after that and said he was on his way, and my brother Mark was going to join him. And we had to adjust our Christmas plans. We were all to meet up at Mom's house, which was about an hour away. But under the circumstances, we decided we just wanted to stick closer to town. Our cell phones don't work up in the mountains where my mom lived at the time. So we kind of all gathered at my house on the 25th. My mom had prepared, I believe it was a ham and some other dishes, and she happily packed up everything and brought all the food to us. And once my parents got to Modesto and my brothers and kind of got a picture of what the situation was like, that Lacey hadn't been found yet, I knew that I needed to head up there as soon as I could. So on the morning of the 26th, I took an early flight out, which is about 6 a.m. And my dad picked me up at the airport in Sacramento. And I spent the next week and a half, almost 2 weeks up there, till January 3rd, when my kids were going back to school. Yeah, guys. During that time you were up there, I assume there were some of the darkest days. Susan, it was a nightmare. It was, just didn't know what to do. You wanted to know, and we tried to do everything that we knew that we could. We got in front of the cameras and wanted to be on the TV and on the news to plead for her safe return. Wanted to help out in any possible way that we could. The Volunteer Center was a good place to have, the headquarters to brainstorm and try to, think of ways to get the word out. We did a lot of poster copying, just getting donations from local businesses that would donate flyers and tape and things we needed to get the posters up. And the people would just appear at the Volunteer Center. And we'd try to coordinate with them, and we had a map on the wall and put them in a direction that hadn't been covered yet. So there's a lot of activity there. We were answering the phones, and the phones were constantly ringing. We were taking tips and turning them over to the police, and Gary goes, now, obviously, as you know, because you've been here, we're no longer in the guilt or innocent phase. We're just talking about the penalty now. And is it safe to say you disagree with the bones with the verdict of this case, correct? Susan, absolutely. Gary goes, but the jury's decision now is whether to basically to put him to death or let him live the rest of his life in prison. What kind of effect would it have on you and your family if Scott was put to death? Susan, I can't describe exactly how we would go on. I know it would. It would kill my parents. I see the pain in their face every day. And we've gone through this for 2 years and trying to keep a strong face for Scott, and it keeps getting worse. We can't imagine it being any worse than having him put to death. We've gone through so much as a family. We're sticking together, and we're strong, and we're supportive of him 100%. But my mind is I don't think my parents are going to make it if he goes. Gary goes, thank you, Susan. I have no further questions. Y'all, come on, man. You tell me what's Scorched. everything. But they brought fruits and cheeses. And Lacey looked so beautiful. And she had a glow about her. And we found out the baby's name was going to be named Connor. And the vacations, I mean, he might have lived in a better house and had more vacations, but he was such a wonderful baby. And at the very, very end, she's writing to Uncle Scott about a punishment she got into, and she needs a, positive adult, whatever the fuck. I mean, positive he's fucking guilty for murdering his wife and baby. And you don't want to believe it because that's your brother. And I get that. I put a lot of people in fucking prison that don't want to believe that their significant others or their family members did it. But guess what? They fucking did it. And he murdered them in cold blood. And he's not up there for you to determine if he murdered them in cold blood. He's up there for any mitigating circumstances. He's up there. They're begging for his life. And the best you got is it would really hurt my parents. And it would really hurt us if he's put to death, and it hurt my 14-year-old daughter. That's Captain Obvious. What do you think it did to baby Connor, who didn't even get to see the face of his dad? And what do you think it did to Lacey, who had been raising their seed in her belly and had married this dude when I'm assuming he probably choked her to death, but she knew he was killing her? You should tell that to your daughter. I'm sure she knows by now. This is 20 something years later. So she's in her mid 30s. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everybody's loss, but I'm not sorry for fucking Scott Peterson. That I'm sorry that the jury had to sit through this fucking bullshit. I mean, if that's the best you got, you should have just let him be sentenced to death. So it's crazy, y'all. Crazy, crazy story. But I mean, they put these people up there, everybody, but Joe's plumber's cousins, mama's uncle's daddy, they put up there to say, oh, he was a good baby and a golfer and whatever. And, fuck him. It's Scorched. And again, you got to remember, keep this in mind. The jury is the one that said he's guilty of murdering his wife and unborn baby. You come at me with all this shit, I'm going to make sure your ass hangs. So I'm going to conclude this week's episode. Thank y'all for continuing to listen and like it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to the end of it. Okay. And then I'll be back to Real Life, Real Crime Originals. Criminal Mind fascinates me. The jury process obviously fascinates me. I did it for all the years and I still, consult on jury cases and stuff like that. But sometimes, a lot of times, the defense attorneys really just fucking blow my mind. Scorched. LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Oh, Patreon convicts, thank you so much for subscribing. You get your commercial free early releases. I think you're getting these like on Monday or Tuesdays now instead of Saturdays, but thank you. And thank you to our national advertisers. If you want a commercial free, you can become a patron or a convict. You can go to the App Store and download the Real Life, Real Crime Community app for free. All the episodes are in there. The merch store, forums, everything is in there. And I go there first every day to check it before I check all my other social media. But you can subscribe through there and become a convict. Or if you don't like that, go to patreon.com and type in Real Life, Real Crime, and it'll give you all the options. But LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, it's my jam. Sign up to be an organ donor, y'all. It's so freaking important. Last week when Wisconsin was in town, Missy Jewell, whose son Reese is a hero, and just, I think it was just a couple of days before his death, when they were getting his driver's license, he told his mom, he looked up and said, I want to become an organ donor. And she said, great. And she's a nurse. And he did it, and it was little announced to him that he would be deceased in a matter of days. But his
I got to hunt with a young man who got I think it was his kidneys, and I got to meet his mom. How grateful do you think that mom is that young man is alive because Reese signed up to be an organ donor? If you want to sign up, LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, they're a nonprofit. And if you can go to their website, lopa.org. You don't have to be a lifer from Louisiana. You could be a lifer from Saudi Arabia. Go to lopa.org. Take 2 minutes, fill out the questionnaire, become a hero, give the gift of life and sight and all that great stuff that they do. It's amazing. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. Until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder by You. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, and Student Loan Interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.